Hi, and welcome to Business Spotlight series. I'm Martin Bailey, and joining us today is Rachel Jones, founder and clinical lead at the Hormone Clinic and Psychiatry Company Limited. Welcome, Rachel. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you it's our pleasure, but thank you very much for taking the time out to come and talk to me today. It's a real privilege. Thank you very much. So, look, why don't we start this whole thing off and you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am a medical doctor. So I went to medical school and I graduated as a doctor. And then I spent time working in various disciplines within the hospital. And then I decided, after a few years, to specialise in psychiatry. So all doctors choose to specialise in something. And I chose to specialise in psychiatry. And I worked in the NHS for many years. And I worked through the various levels of seniority, and I actually chose to specialise from there, psychiatry, in forensic psychiatry, which is actually looking after dangerous mentally ill people. So I did that for 6 years, and then because I had 4 children and I was travelling backwards and forwards to London, it just all became too much. And in 2013, I left the NHS and I became a visiting psychiatrist to the Priory Hospital in Chelmsford and also our local hospital, the BMI St Edmunds. And I was seeing outpatient after outpatient and after outpatient there in both of those hospitals. And it became very apparent to me as I did that, that men and women were not responding to their medication. Women were often presenting to psychiatric services for the first time after they'd had a baby. And I started to think there's something going on here that I'm missing. And I gradually dawned on me over time, with more and more experience and seeing more and more patients, that there was a hormonal contribution to this. And this is an area that's just not acknowledged by psychiatrists. And so during lockdown, actually, I thought I need to do something about this. I need to train in hormones. Where do I go? And so I did some research and found the only recognized CPD for doctors in training of hormone therapy. And I did that, and it was an online, they'd adapted it for COVID, and it was an online training, and I did that. And then I decided that what I was going to do, I was going to set up a service separate from what I was doing in my outpatient clinics, to focus specifically on hormone balance in patients with very significant mental health problems. And that's when the Hormone Clinic started. And and so within that, I've been focusing mainly on the Hormone Clinic, expanding that. And within there, I see patients with perimenopause, menopause, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, postnatal depression, and in men, testosterone deficiency and male menopause, which is another word for it, is andropause. And that's the area of my focus from a business perspective.
Wow. So, I mean, that's that. I mean, as we were talking about earlier, that's a big subject right now in the world, menopause and, male menopause, etc. But that's a big leap. I mean, from being, clinically focused to setting up your own business.
Yes.
It's been must have been quite a gigantic leap for you. So what's been your biggest learning in terms of that leap?
My biggest learning is that it's very difficult. I didn't have the skills in terms of developing a business. I'm a clinician first and foremost, having worked in the NHS for many years. So I was used to working within large institutions within the structure of that. And all of a sudden I was by myself and having to develop a business, and I had no clue how to do it. And my biggest learning, I think, I put my trust in a lot of people that in areas that I didn't understand. I didn't understand about marketing, for example. I didn't understand about website design, and I put my trust in people that they were going to help me. And so, for example, I think I've had 3 websites before I was happy with the one that I've had. I tied myself into various marketing companies that didn't produce the results that I needed. And I put my trust in many people. So I think I've now found people that I trust, because I've discovered that it's really important to have people around you that you trust. Well, have people around you for a start, because it's very lonely. You feel very alone. doing this. So having people around you that you trust implicitly has been so incredibly valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately hear that quite a lot in you know the work that I do about people putting their trust into other companies and companies not necessarily delivering. So,
Yeah.
so I think the key message there is really do your research on
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But I don't think I really knew how to do it. That's the thing. Yeah.
and even get to speak to some of their customers to see if there's any live, you know, information you can get about the sort of results that they're producing. So
Yes.
that, I mean, that's good insight for people, absolutely. So in terms of the people that you now sort of surrounded yourself with, you know, how have you managed, you know, how have you developed them? How have you got, you know, how have you found those people?
Well, so I just through recommendations. So it got to the point. I mean, I think probably every business owner says this. There are days that I wake up and think I can't do this. It's just too much. I'm not I'm not moving. I'm not progressing.
That little voice in the shoulder, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. And then there are other days when I wake up and I think, this is amazing. I'm loving what I'm doing, but I have reached out to people, and I'm not naturally, I don't naturally ask for things. I don't I'm sort of being the one that does everything myself, and it's being brave enough to step out and say to people, I need some help. I'm not moving forward, and I've been let down. Do you have anyone you can recommend? And the moment you ask the question, people seem just delighted to help you. That's what I've discovered. So it's about being brave enough to say, I'm really stuck here. I don't know what to do next. Do you have any advice? And then using other people's contacts.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think when you say brave, I think it's about accepting that not knowing is not feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not knowing, it's looking about not knowing something as an opportunity rather than a negative aspect.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
thinking in that
absolutely.
positive light, saying, well, this is a big opportunity for me because if I get to know this, then I get to learn this and my business will move forward. So again, I mean, another great insight is it's about opening yourself up and just accepting that you don't know what you don't know yet, I think is a phrase.
Yeah, I mean, if I look back to I think it was almost 3 years ago I saw my first patient. If I look back to what I've learned over that time, it's quite extraordinary. All that stuff that I didn't know, that I now do know, and I wonder how I even did it.
Yes, but you have. So there's a lot to be proud of there. A lot to be proud of. So look, I mean, obviously, you're still a practicing clinician and you're running a business. So time, work-life balance, all that stuff, I'd imagine is a bit of a spinning lots of plates all the time. How have you managed that? How is that working for you?
So that's been really difficult, and I have felt very guilty over the time for spending hours and hours and hours in my office working. So I've taught myself to be disciplined, and I was working at weekends, for example, and always slipping off to my office when I thought nobody was noticing, and I've stopped doing that. I've stopped working at weekends. I've stopped slipping off. I've stopped working late in the evenings when I think nobody's watching, and I'm much more disciplined. So I see my patients on certain days. I see my patients 3 full days a week, and then the other 2 I have to focus on the business and do all the admin that's required. And those 2 days to do the admin that's required can slip away from you. So I have to be very disciplined in terms of setting my time. I actually set my watch, and I say, right, I'm going to, for the next hour, I'm going to focus on this, and I'm not going to be distracted by emails. I'm not going to be distracted by phone calls. I'm not going to be distracted by anything. This is what I'm doing for the next hour. And I've had to teach myself that along the way.
And how did you come up with that sort of precise approach?
Well, learning it myself, and seeing the time flying by and looking up and thinking, I can't, all I seem to have done is sent a few emails and 3 hours has gone, but also advice from other people.
Did you read any books or did you take on any learning from there?
So I've joined a practice acceleration group. So it's actually a group, it's an online group for practice owners, medical practice owners, which has been invaluable, really, really just so helpful, and they have taught me that.
And rightly so. I mean, that's exactly good thing to teach you, because you're right. It's about, you know, the sloping, or you make it sound as if you've been a naughty schoolgirl, but it's just sloping off to the office. You think it's unnoticed, but actually is noticed by your family more so than anybody else. Because, and I think the other thing that becomes a challenge is, you think you're spending time with your family, but your brain, you're not actually present.
No, and my children,
your head's still in the business while you're there. Your body's there, but your head's not there.
I know my children say that to me. They say, "Mum, you're not listening to me." And when they want me to really listen to me, they say to me, "Mum, I'm going to say something important to you now." And I sort of come to and think, right,
So they've adapted.
They've adapted, yeah.
They've adapted and come up with their own little strategies to get you to come back into the room, which is interesting. So I mean, you know, that advice about, absolutely, you know, days that you're working in your business and days you're working on your business need to be clearly defined. And I think the advice you said about giving yourself time slots. So I've got an hour to get this done, not 2 hours, not all day. You put deadlines on it, so therefore you put yourself under pressure to get the work done at the time you set, which is absolutely great advice. So
the other thing I do the night before I finish, so if I'm doing a clinic all day, the evening before, I will just make a jot down of 3 things that I must get done the next day. And that works as well.
You're right.
Because otherwise I won't do them.
All what I would be advising people to do is to plan the next day the night before. And there's a reason for that, because subconsciously your brain is working on that, even whether you like it or not, while you're fast asleep. And half the time you've got half the stuff sorted out in your head before you even start it next day. So from a psychological point of view, you become more efficient and more effective. So great advice. Where do you see the clinic and yourself in about 5 years' time then? Where's your future plan looking?
And my future is that I don't want, in 5 years, I'm not going to be working as hard. That's the number one. I want to, that there are 2 parts to all of this. One is, and the first one that I'm going to say now was more important initially, which is educating other psychiatrists about the importance of hormones and hormone balance on mental health, because as far as I'm aware, I'm one of the only psychiatrists in the UK that is focusing on it. And so that's a big part to this. But also with that, I'm hopeful that by giving presentations, of which I'm starting to do more and more, I will be introduced to doctors that are interested in working in the clinic. So that's one area. But the other area, of course, is expanding the clinic and making it available to more and more people that need our help. So getting more doctors on board and helping more and more patients. And that's one of the reasons that I've made it a remote thing, is that firstly for the patients, so that it's more accessible. Many of these patients, if they're mentally unwell, if they're very anxious, they don't want to leave their homes, we're much more accessible this way, because they can just turn on their computer in their living room. They don't have to go anywhere, they don't have to travel. But also making it more accessible for doctors, because there are many high quality doctors who are working in the NHS. Some of them, or many of them, are quite despondent with how things are going, and they want to do some extra work on the side. And so it's making it flexible for them so that they can also do a remote clinic. They don't have to they don't have to travel. And by doing that, it enables me to access really high quality doctors to provide this service.
So do you see the clinic becoming a UK-wide clinic?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I already see patients from all over the UK.
Right, okay, fantastic. Good thinking. Great. So I mean, in terms, so that's great. So you obviously have a very clear mission to raise the awareness of this, which is fantastic. And you've got some ideas around more and more clinicians coming in to support you. But how many clinicians do you see yourself having in about 5 years' time?
Oh gosh, I mean, 20 more.
20? Okay. And they'll all be working online. Would they be dedicated clinicians, or would they be doing other stuff?
No, they'd be doing other stuff. Yes, so actually, I need to make that clear. So I say 20 doctors, maybe even more. They'll probably only be working for the clinic 1 or 2 days a week.
Okay. So they'll be consulting elsewhere, but they're obviously consulting as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, when you start your business, as with every business, money is really, 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 really important. You're having a grip of the finances. So, what advice would you give to new business owners? Because it's only been 2 or 3 years since you set yours up, regarding financial management within your business.
Well, I don't know whether I'm different from other business owners. I haven't taken out any loans, so I've had in my head from the start that this is going to work based on what I'm earning by seeing patients, and I'm not going to borrow money. And if that slows everything down, then so be it. I mean, that has made it difficult because the business wouldn't exist if I wasn't seeing patients and doing these clinics, and that reduces my time that I have on the business. So, but my advice is that I'm the sort of person that feels very uncomfortable if I'm overstretching myself financially, and it doesn't sit very well with me. So I only feel happy if I know that the funds are coming in, and they're, and because it's really expensive to set up a business. I had no idea how expensive it is to, I mean, every aspect of it, the marketing part of it, and I mean, everything is so much money, and I hadn't really understood that. So, and there was a while where everything that I was earning was then going out. I've now got into a position that that's not the case, because I think a lot of it has been set up, and so it's now more about seeing the system. I've also systemized everything as well, so that so I'm relying more on systems and less on staff working in the clinic, and that seems to save money. I've noticed that more money is in the account, has been building up since I've done that.
And it will do. I mean, you're right. I mean, when you're setting a business up, the outlays all up front. And then it's a matter of time. Over time, you end up with the income coming in far exceeds the base cost.
Yeah.
But it takes there's a gradual incline. Is there any tools that you use to manage your money? Is there any tools that you use to manage your finance to make sure that you're not overstretching yourself?
Well, I think finding a good accountant is first and foremost. I think I'm still perhaps need to do more work on that. We've set up a system ourselves with our key performance indicators, where we're monitoring exactly how much is coming in every week, and also how much is going out. In terms of particular software, no, there's nothing I use in particular. It's more something that we've developed ourselves, where we're recording exactly how many patients we're seeing each week, exactly the number of clinical hours I'm working, how much revenue is coming in, how much is going out. So I can see it on a dashboard each week, and getting a snapshot of how the business is doing.
Yeah, great. And you mentioned KPIs, and your KPIs are essential in any business. Understanding what your key metrics are, your key performance indicators, or key profit indicators, various different names and guises. But essentially, it's about having your finger on the pulse of your business.
Yes, and not being avoidant about it, because I see my secretary sends it to me on a Thursday, and I think I not to be avoidant and actually say, no, I'm going to look at these. I'm going to see what's happening, because only if you face up to it and you look at it, you can then work out what you need to do to improve them. Yeah,
absolutely. Get your head out of the sand and have a very good look, and just accept that you are where you are, and worry about what you can control, and what stop worrying about what you can't control.
Yeah,
and get focused on making improvements and taking the right steps.
Yes,
Rachel, there's gold in there for people who are setting up their new businesses. And it's been a great conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that a lot of the listeners will, viewers will take loads away from this. So all that remains for me to say is, thank you so much for your time. It's been fabulous. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, and hopefully I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you. Really lovely to meet you. Thank you.
And you.